All right, let me go ahead and get started. Just that way, I can ensure I at least keep us somewhat attentive with the agenda for some of the discussions after my session here. All right, so I am Brian Wilson. I like to think of myself as a change catalyst, project strategist. I've been in the federal government for about 14 years now, and so really excited to engage with you all today on this topic of professional growth and what it's meant for me and in my employment success, and where I believe what it'll mean for you. There's going to be some discussions in terms of the value of professional growth, not just for us, not just for you, but the trickle down effect amongst your family and your community. And so I have a couple poll questions planned for today, along with the chat is open. And so, of course, feel free to converse there either with me and or your other attendees.
And Brian,
Erica, I see you just joined. Yes.
Yes. And I will be popping around, but I can't wait to hear the brilliance. But for those of you that have a question for Brian, when he indicates that you can share your audio and video, if you have a question and want to ask it with your voice and potentially your face, just click that red button that says share audio video. And we can also bring you into the conversation. So with that, I'm going to leave Brian. Go ahead and have some.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Erica. All right, so just to highlight what I want to share with you all today, just defining the aspects of professional growth. Exactly what does that mean? What does that entail? What is the value? Why should we all care about intentional professional growth? I am also going to highlight some of the barriers that I and others I know that have experienced, and some that you may have or potentially will experience, and some of the breakthroughs and considerations to overcome those barriers as much as possible. I do want to tie in the downstream impacts and effects of investing in our professional growth. Once again, what that means for you as individuals, and what that could mean for your families as well as your community, and then just leave you with some takeaways and some actionable steps that I have implemented myself, and things that you should consider for yourself as well when you're looking to either start or enhance your professional growth journey, regardless of where you might be in life, in your career state. So I like to kick things off once again, just a little bit more about myself, just so that you understand, some of my experiences and some of my perspectives. So I'm in Maryland. I've been in Maryland, Bowie, Maryland, for about 14 years now. I am a New Jersey native, and after I graduated university, I was working for an advertising agency in Center City, Philadelphia. I was a marketing major, and I had started this position in 2008. That was the economic downturn. 2009 came around. We know what was happening within the economic environment. And so I had got that notice that I was being laid off. This was February of 2009, probably a week before my birthday. And so I can say this now, just looking back at, all the years that have gone by, and, maybe you can take this as some sort of hope or insight or, motivation for you. But being laid off was the best thing that has ever happened to me. And that's actually very easy for me to say, because that was a pivotal moment in my personal life and career life where I had to rethink what I thought I was going to do from a career profession, and everything that has occurred in those 14 years, from the opportunities to do great work with individuals in the federal government, attend and speak at, mentorship events and other professional events. I'm sure, being laid off, at that time, was a domino effect. And so I certainly understand the value of, professional growth, what that's meant for me. And that has allowed me to come here and speak with you all and share some of my experiences, and for you all to share your experiences with others as well. And so once again, very happy and excited to talk about this particular topic. And if there's one or two items that you can take away from this discussion, then I deem that a success. So let me just monitor the chat here. Okay, great. Okay. Oh, and by the way, yes, today, happy Juneteenth to everyone. I was looking for my flag. In particular, June is Caribbean Heritage Month. And so I also want to big up my Caribbeans. Both of my parents are Guyanese. And so I should have had my flag in the background, but definitely want to shout out you all as well. So kudos to you all. Virtual applause. You are taking the first step in, understanding more what professional growth can mean for you and your community just by tuning into this session, just by tuning into, this all Black everything event that Pathways to Excellence is putting on. And so it's very encouraging to see you all here, and you should also be encouraged by you participating in this event as well. So I'm going to kick things off with a poll question before we jump into the meat of things. And I have a poll question here. It's through the platform. And so I am going to publish this, and you should see a pop-up in the online platform. So before today, how frequently have you engaged in activities specifically and intentionally aimed at professional growth? Is this something that you do regularly? Is this something that you do sometimes, rarely, or never, that you haven't given any thought? So answer this first poll question here, and we will continue to get things going. All right, good. I see results coming in. Excellent. I'll give it like 5 more seconds. All right, majority of you all mentioned sometimes, and then the other, all right, numbers went up. So majority sometimes, and then some regularly. I'm glad to see that no one selected rarely or never, right? That might require some more intervention, but happy to see the results there. All right, so professional growth. What does this buzz phrase mean? What does this encompass? What does this entail? So from my perspective, I believe there are 5 main elements, 5 pillars. There's skill enhancement, there's advocacy and influence, there's the continuous education standpoint. And I know during the stage, Erica and Joe Wells had a conversation with regards to continuous education and where it might make sense and when it might not make sense, and so we'll talk more about that. The other 2 aspects are experiential learning and then networking and community building, and exactly what that means from a professional growth standpoint. Skill enhancement, I believe that's self-explanatory. That is not only enhancing and fine-tuning the skills that you currently have, but that is also being cognizant and understanding skill sets that are on the horizon. looking at trends either within your organization or your employment, or looking at trends that's happening across the industry. Generative AI, that is the buzzword for 2024. What does that mean from understanding how to utilize that? Prompt engineering, understanding how to use large language models, if that is in your sphere of influence. Data analytics. Nowadays, regardless of what industry you're in, what organization you work for, there is so much data at our disposal that are crucial to making business decisions, strategic decisions. And so, do you have at least a fundamental understanding of how to analyze data, how to clean data, how to display data so that you can make decisions and judgments from there? So when I mention skill enhancement, it is looking at what you currently have as well as what's trending, in the next few months or years. To improve the skill enhancement aspect, there's a number of ways you can do that. That is, of course, training sessions. YouTube University is great. The amount of, free and often good content that is on there. Your organizations, if they have training budgets, if they have training programs, those are, great ways to upskill either for free or for very cheap. And then the other way to look at skill enhancement is proximity. And this is also ties into a little bit of the experiential learning, but thinking about who can you interact with, who can you learn from, who can you seek mentorship out from, this individual that is displaying skills that you either want to master or that you want to enhance, or just completely new skill set. Advocacy and influence. You might be wondering, well, skill enhancement makes sense, but where does advocacy and influence come in terms of professional growth? That looks like championing for fair and equitable practices within your community, within your organization. That looks like championing for, and I know DEI, that tends to be a buzzword. There's a lot of, there's a lot of funding that is thrown behind that, but it certainly serves its purpose because it brings awareness to additional steps and additional equities that need to be in place for all of us, especially our community, in terms of getting the bar, if not close or equal with everyone else, right? And so that might look like chairing, being a board of director, chairing various organizations within your community, within your organization, to bring enlightenment and awareness with regards to some of the inequities when it comes to professional growth and the opportunities that we have. And that can also prime you as a thought leader, as an expert. If you have an opportunity to share your experiences, write those blog articles, engage in these sorts of panel discussions and workshops where you're advocating and influencing for these sorts of initiatives, that is all building up your professional growth muscle, your thought leadership muscle. The continuous education. Once again, we want this to be a contributor, not an inhibitor. And so, does it make sense for you to come out of pocket for an additional master's degree, for additional certifications? We'll talk here shortly about the mindset of, personal growth and education, where it is an investment, but you also want to ensure that you know why you're doing it and what that might mean for you by making that investment. A lot of professional organizations out there have, certifications, they have conferences, there's like the Project Management Institute. I'm also a change manager. There's ProSci, for all these, formal certifications, and those certainly have its place, right? When you are out in the employment, when you're out in industry, whether you are looking for employment, whether you are looking to change positions, take on a role with more responsibility, there is some validity to having particular certifications that supports your ability to perform in particular roles. So just understanding where that makes sense for you. And then the last two here, experiential learning, network and community building. Experiential learning, that bridges the gap between theory and practice. So you've attended today's session, you are going to learn, particular things either that are brand new or that are just good reminders. And so what do you do next with that information? How do you apply that into your community? How do you apply that into your place of business? How do you apply that into your organization? And then being able to get some sort of feedback, reinforcement activities to ensure and show proof to yourself that you understand these concepts. And then network and community building, just like what's happening today with Pathways to Excellence and all the organizations involved here, right? Individuals, they have been out in the workforce. They've started their own companies. They've started their own organizations. They built up that expertise. They built up that muscle. And so now they are able to come back into the community and display and have these sorts of online platforms and functions where we can relay back to you all, the knowledge and experiences that have been imparted on us. So that's a little bit of how we should think about personal growth. And from my standpoint, some of the main pillars and aspects of professional growth. Okay, this is very important, and I want us to have a conversation on the why of seeking professional growth. Right, myself included. Coming up through university, through early in my career, there's conversations about networking, professional growth. And at some point, it just seems like it's something to do. I myself, and I encourage you all to really peel back the layer and understanding why this is something that you want to do. It's great that you want to do it, but I think there's a few more layers that you can go in terms of some of the reasons. So I'm not sure if you all have heard of the 5 whys, but I encourage you all to ask yourself that question, right? So you are attending this particular session because you want to learn about professional growth. Why do you want to learn about professional growth, right? Well, you might say that you want to provide more opportunities either for your community or provide more opportunities for your family. Well, why are those things important? And as you continue to ask those questions, you'll really get to your deepest and your deepest rooted motivation factors that'll keep you disciplined along the journey, because professional growth is a journey. The first item here is the payback value, right? There may be some immediate tangible benefits, and then a lot of it is going to be long-term. It's going to be planting the seeds and watering the grass. I'll just give you an example. Erica Roberts, one of the board of directors for Pathways to Excellence, I met her 4 months ago when we were on a similar government panel. And so we had conversations, kept in touch. And so now 4 or 5 months later, I have an opportunity to be a part of this online platform. That is something that you're going to see happen very often along your way, where you're going to meet individuals and you're going to have good conversations, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there is a tangible, quote unquote, reward in that moment. Sometimes it takes months or years of just engaging in dialogue, having those check-ins. But then that's when luck and preparedness come into play. Luck and opportunity comes into play to, cash in, that networking and that relationship. The other why of seeking professional growth, and I think this is the big one for a lot of us here, increased earning potential usually means increased investment potential. For the most part, as you develop and enhance skill sets, as you move up in your organization, or if you're a business owner, as you provide more value to your customers and stakeholders, and how do you provide more value? You do things better, right? You enhance your service delivery. That usually is rewarded itself in terms of income and revenue. And when we have a great pool of income and revenue, that opens up investment opportunities, whether it's real estate, whether it's stocks, whether it's investments, whether it is funding scholarships for kids at universities, to fully or partially pay for their education, fully or partially pay for whatever certifications that they are looking to do. That is a downstream trickle effect of increasing earning potential that usually comes with elevating your professional growth. Community and family upliftment, which I mentioned there a little bit. When you prime yourself as a thought leader, as an expert, you go out into the workforce, into your business, you bringing in all this knowledge back to your community. And so now you can have community programs. Now you can go back to middle schools, elementary schools, high schools, impart your knowledge, impart your experience, because you've now built up this reputation within the work environment that, hey, this individual, they know what they're doing. I've seen what they've done. They've invested in their professional growth. And now they're able to share that experience and give hope, desire, and excitement for individuals that might be 5, 10, 15 years behind them. And then the last item here, it increases representation of Blacks and African Americans in thought leadership areas. I'll just give you one example for myself. Once again, my current role, I'm an organizational change management lead. I am not seeing a lot of sub 40, 45 African American males in that space. And so that is something that I desire to create more awareness and bring more desire around. And so, that is a question and consideration for you all when you look at these potential whys of your seeking professional growth, why you're here, why you selected to join my session. Those are things that you think about, but I also encourage you to actually write it down, pen and paper, and revisit that every so often. All right, so I have another poll question coming up, and this is going to prime us for our next session. And I'm going to turn it on here. Okay, so this poll question is, what do you perceive as the biggest barrier to engaging in continuous professional development? Once again, the biggest barrier. You may feel all these are relevant, but what is the primary barrier? Is it financial costs? Is it the time constraints? Is it the lack of opportunities? Or is it just not knowing where to start? So I'll give you all about 30 seconds. Let me know your thoughts, and this will prime us for our next section. All right, 50% right now says time constraints. Yeah, absolutely. I would say that's probably my number one as well. All right, give it about 15 more seconds. All right, great. So I wanted to highlight today some of the barriers that you all may have already faced, are currently facing, and or might face in the future. So there's the systemic barriers, there's the financial constraints, there's the personal constraints, And then there's the minimal representation and kind of how that plays into our thoughts and our mindsets. So the way I'll go through this is just highlighting, what some of these barriers actually mean. And then on each slide, I have a breakthrough item in terms of, these are some considerations to either overcome those barriers or lessen those barriers so that, you can really max out your potential in terms of, professional growth and what that would mean for you and your family and your community.
And I want to say, while we're about to go through this list, if you do not already have your pen and paper, or preferably pen and paper, but however you're recording notes,
yes,
pull it out, because this is the piece where we're at the end, when we're going to do a charge to action. I need you to know what the barriers are, what those constraints are, what actions you can take, and then what you are going to do. We talked about you can do something. What are you willing to do? And then what are you going to actually commit to do? So this is the part. If you haven't been doing that yet, go ahead and start recording. Paper and pen, if possible. If not, on something else. I'm old school. I'm sorry, Brian.
No, so Eric, look, I have my own notebook and pen for today, just for my own notes. So I actually want to pivot just for like 30 seconds, and I'm glad you mentioned something. I think you mentioned in terms of what are you willing to do. Everything in life has so I've just been doing some reading, some self-reflection lately for myself. Everything in life has a cost, and that cost isn't always monetary, right? There are health costs, there are opportunity costs, Erica, which you mentioned earlier. There's always the cost of doing something and not doing something. And so when we walk through this and when we conclude, I certainly want you all to be prepared for yourself to identify, what am I going to pay to achieve my objective? So thanks for that, Erica.
Thank you.
All right, so systemic barriers, right? This is usually something that is a result of either organizational structures, hierarchies, bureaucracies, processes, right? This is usually something that, oftentimes you'll hear it as, well, we've never done this before, or this is how it's usually done, or, this doesn't make sense. No one's done this before. So systemic barriers, this certainly is a big beast, but it's not impossible, right? It's not impossible to tackle. This is where, and I mentioned it earlier in terms of one of the aspects of professional growth, this is where the advocacy and the influence comes in, right? If you're a part of an organization or part of a community that already has some of these, equity and inclusion programs, initiatives, and policies in place, that is a great jumping point, right? If you're starting from scratch, then obviously that is going to be more of a journey, but it's not impossible, right? This also looks like particular hiring practices, right? What is the demographic makeup of senior executives or C-suite individuals within your organization or within your community, right? Is it 10% are African-American women or 10% are African-American males, right? If that is the dynamics and if that is the environment, then, yes, there's going to be some challenges and some work that needs to be done there. But this is where advocating and speaking up for yourself with some of these awareness programs, bringing light to diversity, equity, and inclusion, bringing light to, hey, I am just as good and just as capable as everyone else is in terms of fulfilling, these roles, these job functions, and whatever that might be. I know that in the federal government in 2023, Office of Personnel Management, they have something called the Federal Government Chance to Compete Act of 2023. And that's where they look at not only the hiring processes, but the promotion processes of, minority individuals and what that might look like. So within your community, within your organization, if there's already committees in place where there's strength in numbers and you can bring awareness and light, to ensuring that, hey, these other groups of individuals have X amount of opportunities and X amount of budget for training and professional development that is not indicative of this community over here, putting together a package and a presentation and a talking point with one another and bringing that to leadership is a good first step in bringing awareness. Sometimes systemic barriers are not intentional. Sometimes they just need to be informed about things, right? And they need to be, called to the carpet, so to speak, right? And so those are some considerations to overcoming some of the systemic barriers in the way of professional development. Financial constraints. This is a big one, right? I'm in the federal government, and so fortunately there are a plethora of free or very low cost certification programs, development programs, conferences, and workshops. For individuals where that might not be the case, yes, this does take some time and care and attention in terms of what that budget might look like. And this is where we have the conversation of what is the cost? What is the investment, right? If me attending this $500 conference or this $500 certification puts me on a path to earn an additional $5,000 or $10,000 a year for my family, and then from that we can either invest it back in our household or invest it back in our community, that $500 looks very good. This is where you want to do some pre-planning, right? This is where you might say, okay, looking down the road 6 months, these are some of the opportunities that I want to take a look at from a professional development standpoint. Oftentimes, let's say there's an event tomorrow that costs $1,000. Because the event is so close, we're trying to figure out how to come up with that $1,000. But if we can say, hey, 6 months from now, I know I'm going to need $1,000, or 6 months from now, or a year from now, I know I'm going to need $500. It's very easy to start allocating funds to partake in that event. And once again, what are you willing to pay to achieve the things that you say and tell yourself that you actually want? Young adults out there, or actually not just young adults out there, but there's a plethora of scholarships, grants, grant programs at the federal, state, and city and local municipality level. And then once again, YouTube University. It's amazing how many thought leaders are out there giving out free game and free information on YouTube that can be a perfect foundation and baseline for what it is that you're looking to do in your career and in your business. Personal constraints. Okay. I know time constraint was a big one. I have a 3-year-old. I have a 3-teenager. That's a wild stage, right? I work all day. She gets home, and the hours between 5 and 9 p.m., 5 and 8:30 p.m. are usually a blur, right? And then we have family members and spouses that also require our attention. And so personal constraints, I get it. I'm also very cognizant that folks may be in different seasons of their life, and that's all right. But once again, planning things out. Can you say 3, 4, 5 months from now, let me allocate time to do a particular thing that is going to reap benefits for my family? And then going back to what we are willing to pay, what is the cost? Part of what I am choosing to pay right now is, instead of going to bed at 10 p.m., I am choosing and I'm paying the cost of going to bed at 11 or 11:30 p.m. But I also know that this is not permanent. I also know that this is just a particular season. There's a particular goal I'm trying to reach. And so that is a temporary cost that I am willing to pay at the moment. Now, others in situations and individuals can certainly be more complicated than that. And so I just ask and encourage you all, if you're not busy 24/7, where can you apply some micro learning? Where can you find 15 or 30 minutes? That's the wonder of the compound effect, right? Just think about it. if I give myself 30 minutes a day or 2 hours a week for the next 12 months, just think about how that rises exponentially. Right? So we can bite this off. We can bite this piece off very small. It doesn't have to be, oh, I need to find 3 hours a day. I don't find 3 hours a day, right? So these are some considerations. The last barrier to highlight here, minimal representation. This is the importance of role model and leadership and seeing someone that looks like us, that talks like us, right? If we don't think something is possible, or we don't see someone doing something that we want to do, subconsciously or consciously, we are not going to attempt to do so. And that's why adjusting our mindset and understanding that, hey, if I'm entering an arena for the first time, or there's not a lot of individuals from my demographic, I'm also cognizant that if this is something that I want to do, there's probably dozens of other individuals, younger individuals 10 to 15 years behind me that are looking to do the same thing. And I don't want them to manifest the same feelings and lack of representation visuals when they get to my point. So let me just break through that now, right? And this is a superpower. Think about it. That also is your unique value, right? If you are doing something new, underrepresentation could be a good thing from the standpoint of, okay, this is the first, or this is one of the first people to be able to do something. That can actually elevate you on your platform, right? It doesn't muddy the water if there's hundreds or thousands of individuals that speak on the same topic or the same subject, right? Having unique experiences, having differentiating experiences is a value. And so mentorship, going back out to the community, going and speaking with universities, the federal government, we have, large internship program presence. I came through the internship program when I was at Department of Defense, right? And I know how helpful that was for me. I saw, SESs and generals that were of minority, and that gave hope, that gave excitement, that gave desire. And so partaking in mentorships, partaking in speaking engagements, just being out in the community, having webinars, having discussions, people are seeing you, they're seeing what you're doing, and that gives hope and excitement and desire that they would be able to do the same. And oh, by the way, that adds to your professional development muscle. That primes you as an expert. That primes you as a thought leader. That primes you as, this is an individual that I want to bring in and speak and do business with, over here, based on what you're doing, from this standpoint. All right, I believe I have the last poll question, and we're gonna get towards the end here. So let me open this up, and we'll start wrapping things. Start putting a bow on items. So this poll question is: how do you primarily build your professional network? Once again, keyword primarily. Is it attending professional events? Is it through online platforms? So there's LinkedIn, there's Facebook, there's Polywork, there's Reddit. Is it through work activities, or are you not actively building your network, right? And maybe that's why you're here, today. So I'll give you all 20 seconds, and we'll see what feedback you have. All right, through work activities. A couple mentioned don't actively build, and that's fine, and that's where, one of the themes I want to leave you all with today is intentionality. I know for myself, when if I leave things to chance, if I leave things to chance, life gets in the way. life be lifing. And so I'll time block. I'll put time on my calendar. I'll put reminders on my phone just to bring some intentionality around it. Once again, you may not see the benefits today or tomorrow, but if you do this over the course of days, weeks, years, months, it's gonna speak volumes for your family, for your career, for your community. All right, great. Let's see here. So just to tie things up here, what does professional growth specifically do for our community? And some of these we touched on just on the previous slides, right? Boosting our earning potential. Look, life, funds, income, it is a means to an end, right? And earning potential allows us to do more. And it kind of just is what it is, right? It allows us to have scholarship programs. It allows us to have after school programs. It allows us to set up networking programs, mentorship programs. And so by taking the time to increase your earning potential, by increasing your skill sets, by looking at some continuous education, by providing values to others, right? And then having them bring you in their circle of being and doing things, that is a trickle down effect for your community, wherever you are at in the world. The community wealth, right? I live in Prince George's County. I love this county. I go out to breakfast. I see folks and individuals that are doing well for themselves. They're spending their Black dollar within the community. I love it. Those are also individuals that have invested the time to be wherever they're at in their life and their career. They paid whatever that cost was. Entrepreneurial ventures. Oftentimes I see, especially in the federal government, I see individuals they work for the federal government, they retire, and they go out in industry and they start their own consulting companies, their own coaching companies, right? And they're now able to impart that knowledge back into the community, just one big cycle, right? Mentorship programs, workshops, and trainings. These are all, the last two particularly are knowledge transfer areas where imparting knowledge, letting folks know this is how you can do something, once again, gives hope, desire, and motivation to be able to reach their objectives. Community relations and advocacy and innovation, right? Strengthening our voices. If we have all these professional organizations, Pathways to Excellence, the Black MBA Association, X is Possible, with these individuals partnering in platforms just like this, it puts the community on notice, right? It puts the community on notice that we are doing these particular things. Policy changes. Folks, Black Chamber of Commerce, Maryland Small Business Associations, individuals that have built their career muscle, they've built their entrepreneurial muscle, and they're now able to go back into these organizations within the state, local communities, and drive some of these policies and changes based on the investment they've taken over the years and decades when it comes to professional development, professional growth. All right. And I promise this is one last poll question. And then I have one more slide, which is just takeaways. As Erica mentioned, I hope you have your pen, pad, and paper so you can articulate to yourself, what you're going to do today after hearing this message. So last poll question, I'll just give you all 15 seconds, and then I have one slide to end things. And this poll question is, do you have a clear long-term vision for your career? And you can replace career with business. And do you feel equipped to achieve it? And the options are yes, no, or kind of. So I'll give you 20 seconds and then one last slide as actionable steps. Okay. Got a couple. All right. It looks to be pretty evenly spread here. Okay, great. Thanks. All right. So what should what should occur after today's discussion? First, invoke possibility thinking, right? I want you to get into the mode of creating excitement, creating a compelling vision for yourself, for your family, for what you want to do within your community after you're able to achieve these things. Think about the possibilities. Think about how it'll feel, right, when you're able to achieve what you're looking to achieve in your career, in your business, through professional growth, through professional development. Pathways to Excellence. I know they have a number of other events throughout the year. Make sure you sign up so you can engage and hear more of these conversations. Repetition matters, right? This is not the last time that you should hear about professional growth and its importance. Join professional organizations. Some of them have nominal fees where it might be $100 a year. That's less than $10 a month, right? I love Smoothie King. Maybe I just won't have Smoothie King for a couple weeks, and that can fund, my, membership. Schedule regular check-ins with yourself. Time block, put it on your calendar, put it on your Google Calendar. I'm taking 15, 30 minutes to learn about this. And if you do that over 12 months, it's amazing what happens. Keep a journal of your learning, your development activities. That shows proof to yourself that you're able to do this. It creates some historical context, right? It keeps that discipline and motivation that you can actually do what you say you want to achieve. And then teach others what you're learning. One of the best ways for information and knowledge to stick is to impart it back to others. Blogging, doing your training sessions, webinars, writing articles. You all here have some level of knowledge and expertise that someone 3 or 5 years behind you needs to hear. Impart that knowledge back to them. So start small, think big, act now. Little steps compounded over time make a big, big difference. And so thank you all. I'll leave you with this slide. This is my email. This is my LinkedIn. This QR code, if you scan it, will also take you to my LinkedIn profile. But certainly, thank you for this, and love to have conversations at some other time.
Can you hear me, Brian?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what just happened to my sound, but thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for being here. This was excellent. Very well done. Positive vibes, a lot of information, a lot of actionable information. The recording will be only in this platform. You had to be registered to see it through the end of the month because we want you to make certain that you are, it might have been too much for you to take in at once. Come back, visit it, see it. Connect with Brian, follow him on LinkedIn, engage with him on LinkedIn. And if you're a man, Brian, I believe we're going to see you in July.
Yes, right? Yes, you will.
So
absolutely.
We'll be right here in the same platform doing some things. We are now moving into our next set of sessions. So Brian, it's been amazing. Brian and I were on a panel together.
Yes.
Black History Month. So it's a theme coming on here.
Oh, that is such a good point.
I want to thank you for all that you do. Thank you for this service on this day that is about servicing the community. And thank you for being a model of how folks can excel. We will absolutely make you a friend of Pathways. You have a friend in us for going forward. And we invite you all to come on into the money and marketing sessions that are coming up next. In the sessions, you have maybe a minute. You might be able to connect with one random person in the networking if you want to click on that and connect with somebody or take a bio break. But we will see you in a couple of minutes in the workshops. Thank you, Brian. All you need to do is stop sharing your audio video in the top, and we will see you on the other side.
Thank you.